Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We'll be delving into the complexities of AI-powered test automation for the modern enterprise. I'm Rick Bushnell, coming to you today from Philadelphia, close to the Pronix office in Princeton. This event is hosted by Pronix and Tricentis. Pronix, as you may know, is a trailblazer in IT solutions, and Tricentis, a leader in software testing innovations. They have come together today in a strategic partnership to offer innovation across AI-driven software test automation solutions. As your host today, I'm excited to have a conversation with a few of the industry thought leaders. AI and software testing is a field that's rapidly transforming in response to advancing technologies and growing system complexities. So our goal today is to empower you all across various industries and help enabling them with enhancing efficiency, reliability, and agility in your testing processes. So today I'm pleased to introduce two panelists. We have Bill with Tricentis. He's an expert in AI-driven test automation strategies and is an evangelist for the automated test industry. And Tinju is with Lucky, a digital marketing agency, and she's a seasoned practitioner with extensive experience in enterprise-level AI software testing implementations. So today, let's explore the crucial topics of AI in automated testing these days. Bill, I wanted to start with you. Could you outline the current landscape of AI-powered test automation and its significance in the modern enterprise testing strategies?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for this intro, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to the audience today. Now, first, let me say that AI may be the most overused term in the industry. Machine learning has been around for quite some time. What we think of as AI today is generally ChatGPT. Once ChatGPT hit the market, everyone became aware that now all of a sudden we have agents that can give us restaurant recommendations and talk to us in English. But it's really not a new technology or technique. I mean, we've had neural networks around since even when I was in college, and you can tell by this gray hair, that was some time ago. I used it as an Excel plugin in graduate school. Now, the adoption by the quality assurance industry, though, has been coming over the last 15 years that I have seen. Some of the first were predictive analytics, would actually go in and analyze a defect database and use that information to try to predict where errors may occur in the future, or even find training issues. I actually used to sell bias testing services for those because just because a pattern was found doesn't necessarily mean it was a root cause. Then we began to get a little more creative. We started looking at problems like impact analysis. For instance, in an SAP system, if a change comes into the system, how can I identify that change and then rank it against how the system's actually being used in production? Tricentis has a product called Live Compare that does exactly that. Then we took some different tacks. Now, test automation has really swung to the API level and starting to come back to the UI level. And the reason for that is because the rapid pace of change simply meant that we were spending more time fixing our tests and running it. But with the advent of machine learning, we're starting to address that problem in a very effective way, whether it's something like Vision AI, which is more like facial recognition for objects on a screen, where I could literally build my automation off mock-ups and run it on the live system. Or let's go back to our old friend, the neural network, and apply it to self-healing, a test that can actually adjust properties on the fly and fix itself at the time of execution. Now, though, all anyone wants to talk about is generative. And we have just introduced a new suite of what we call copilots. Most people in the industry do use that term. Intelligent assistants that will help the tester and the quality professional be more productive. Now, I'm very, very big on the fact that those people need to be in the loop. This is not replacing jobs. A prompt engineer is no substitute for a craft worker, particularly a prompt engineer that doesn't understand the craft. So our first wave into this arena is this series of intelligent assistants. It's really just laying the groundwork from where we're going to go from there, which, as most people on this call probably want to hear, when are you going to start auto-generating tests? Well, on the manual side, we're very close, if not there already in beta. On the automated side, I'm going to save that for a little bit later in our conversation.
Very good. Appreciate it. Well, it's clear the landscape is evolving rapidly and driving a lot of significant changes across the industry. Tinju, anything that you're thinking about that we didn't touch on yet? I think you might be
Tinju, I believe you're still muted.
Sorry about that. This happens all the time. But just agreeing to what Bill said, like tests like intelligence testing. I think that's what you were referring to, Bill, earlier. Like it can prioritize tests based on the analytics. So those kind of tests can actually add like adaptability, and that's what we are looking for, right? In today's software development landscape, where applications are constantly evolving and release cycles are becoming shorter, and AI-powered tests come in and offers adaptability. And I am so excited for like what AI can do next.
Excellent. Well, Tinju, let me come back to you a little bit about implementations as a practitioner. Mm-hmm. What are the complexities should organizations anticipate when implementing an AI-driven testing solution in kind of a diverse environment?
Of course. So implementing AI-driven testing solution in diverse environment can be transformative, but a complex undertaking for most of the organizations, right? So like several complexities may arrive during this implementation process. For example, first of all, it requires organizational change. And then like a big important thing is stakeholder buy-in. So like resistance to change, culture barriers, communication gaps may hinder the adaptation efforts. But if you have like a effective change management strategies, stakeholder engagement, and training initiative, right? Those can actually help implementing AI with like a culture of innovative and collaboration, my mentality. And another thing is like assessing the effectiveness and reliability of like AI-driven testing solution demands like a rigorous evaluation and validation process. So organization must establish appropriate benchmarks and validation methodologies to measure that performance, identify limitations, and may ensure that it aligns with the business objectives and the quality standards and the QA practices. And another thing I would mention is like AI introduce a whole new level of complexity. So it requires like training and fine-tuning algorithms to recognize patterns, right? To make accurate predictions. So this process can be time-consuming and it demands expertise in machine learning techniques. So organization must need to find ways to invest in infrastructures, tools, and training to support AI initiative effectively. And we just talked about data, and data quality is another important thing, like because AI algorithms heavily rely on data for training and all the tasks. So organizations might encounter challenges related to data quality, availability, and accessibility of data necessary to train the AI models effectively. And privacy concern can be a complicate, can complicate things, right? Sure. And another complexity would be like how this AI will work with the current framework and the workflow that particular organization already have. We have to ensure minimal disruption to ongoing QA activities, right, when we are trying to implement this. And one last point I would want to add is like ethical and regulatory consideration related to data privacy. Organization must adhere to industry standards and regulations to ensure ethical AI use.
Great. Thank you, Tinju. Understanding these complexities is essential for smooth technology adoption. Bill, anything that you can think of that we didn't touch on that you wanted to get out there for just what organizations need to think about?
I love what she said about the release rate speeding up.
Okay.
I always say the pace of change we're dealing with today is as slow as it will ever be again. And AI being leveraged by our friends the developers have really exacerbated that problem. Between ChatGPT and Copilot, we may very well be looking at the last generation who actually wrote code from scratch is alive today. So we're going to need to be able to fight fire with fire using these same capabilities, as long as we are the guardians that make sure that what they're producing is indeed of value. And I also love what she said about data, because that is really the foundation of how we're training these. And I have seen, there's a gentleman named Dan Cohen, who I love to quote, and he said, our biggest blocker to unleashing the power of AI is uncertainty over the integrity of the data set it's working from. So one thing we're always saying is, are you AI ready? Is your data AI ready? And is your workforce AI ready? I love what you said about the new skill set. 10 years ago, everyone needed to code. Now everyone needs to learn prompt engineering. And there was another interesting study done by BCG where they provided these help assistants for the day-to-day work. And they found that the below average performers, they improved their productivity by 43%. The above average improved by 17%, but it backfired because all their skills started to get rusty. And I've heard CEOs from some of the big suppliers out there in the industry stand up and say, this will take a third of your jobs. I simply don't believe that. I think that we need to apply this from a productivity boosting point of view because of the onslaught of testing need that is being produced by what the development side of the house is doing. I think we're starting to embark on a golden age for the quality engineering profession if we realize we are the guardians and the gatekeepers for what these are producing.
I like it. Bill, just kind of continuing on that, can you discuss some of the best practices for integrating AI technology for testing into existing test automation frameworks?
Oh, exactly. And that is following on to what I just said. We've talked up to this point about AI for quality engineering. We have to have quality engineering for AI as well. We have to understand that even the tools that we're using in our day-to-day are still subject to things like drift, hallucination. They are probabilistic models that return suggestions, not deterministic models that return necessarily hard facts. Take ChatGPT and give it a very large number and ask it if that number is prime and see how often it's correct or incorrect. That alone should make you pause and go, Also, from a security point of view, everyone remember when we used to be able to do SQL injection? I could type a SQL statement into an edit field and drop a whole database. Well, what if through prompt engineering, I'm able to take one of these generative AIs and have it spill all its secrets? We were developing one internally that was one of our copilots. It was designed to return JavaScript functions for use in one of our automated platforms. Within 20 minutes, my smart aleck team and I managed to get it to give us a cookie recipe and tell us a joke as long as it returned it in the form of a JavaScript function. So these are the principles everyone needs to keep in mind when applying this. Also, how do we test these AIs? What is the standard good? If you're on Amazon and you order, in my case, Lego sets, and it suggests other Lego sets that I might want, how do I know what the right answer is? Is there just one right answer? So it's really going to come down to choose the things that allow you to be more productive earlier. Things like we talked about already. Self-healing is becoming very big. And with the rapid pace of change, no matter what your automation framework is, you have to find a way to apply self-healing. We're going to see more and more of these auto-generated cases as well, but you have to stay in the loop to understand, did they provide value for you in the first place? And also, why do we need to generate hundreds, if not thousands of cases if we have the technology through machine learning to really prioritize what needs to be tested in the first place? Our founder, Wolfgang Plotz, always said, let's do less testing more intelligently. So just taking an existing automation framework and applying self-healing may not be enough. We had one example up in Canada recently where we did an analysis of 2,000 tests and only 8% coverage resulted from those 2,000 tests. They couldn't believe it. So hitting those low-hanging fruits, making sure we're being as effective and productive as possible while keeping an eye on the quality of the output, I think is paramount for applying it to any existing framework.
Oh, I like that. Some valuable recommendations. Best practices are crucial for leveraging the full potential of AI technologies, for sure. Tinju, kind of come back to you as a real practitioner. Could you share a real-world success story that highlights successful AI-powered test automation initiatives?
Of course, and I want to add to what Bill was saying earlier. We kind of did that in Lucky. We kind of integrated AI into our existing automation framework. We started small. We identified a use case or a feature first, and then we kind of started small. And first we assessed the current framework, then decided, okay, we're going to go with a particular use case, and then we kind of piloted the whole thing. And another important thing I wanted to add was adequate training. Most of the time we kind of implement things, and maybe we have a introductory training and then kind of move on from that. But continuously training and upskilling our team is very important, I guess. That's all I wanted to add to that.
No, it's valuable. Thank you.
And coming back to your question, yes, of course I can share a real world success story. Precision is very important when it comes to pharmaceutical digital marketing industry. Even a missing comma or an incorrect word can be a serious consequences, right? Because in contrast to pharma, we don't dance with FDA. We are literally do tango with them, right? Our golden ticket is the user experience. So once approved, our marketing assets must function exactly as intended. No deviations allowed. Even a broken link or a misaligned a CTA could impact real world outcomes. So whether it's ensuring the accessibility standards or adhering to industry specific regulation, our team navigates this landscape. So we are not just a marketers, like Bill said earlier, we are guardians of trust and transparency when it comes to pharma marketing. So manual testing has been our reliable method for pharma web application testing, but it was also our bottleneck. It gets so tedious, repetitive, and time consuming. So then came automation to the picture. It kind of reduced time and it ensured consistency. But then another problem was it required a significant level of technical expertise and coding proficiency, right? So that kind of created a barrier for many QA testers. And not only that, maintaining and updating automated test scripts to reflect the updates requires an ongoing effort, right? So without the necessary technical skills, automation efforts can quickly become outdated and ineffective. So how do we strike the right balance? How do we maintain the human touch while harnessing the power of automation? That was the question. And I feel that's where AI came in, especially with visual testing, often overlooked, plays a crucial role in ensuring a seamless user experience, right? So AI automation tool can just capture a web page visually, and next time when we run the test, it can make sure nothing changed. CTA is aligned, copies on point. So it kind of came in on the right time, I would say. Even a small tiny minute changes, AI automation can detect very quickly with a single prompt. Tester can prompt navigate to the home page or submit the form or fill in this field with so and so names or zip code, and it can do it in a second, right? So for me, that was a game changer, because in pharma industry, we are testing extensively after each feedback from regulatory. And that was like a lot of testing.
Yeah.
And after implementing AI, our testing steps were like significantly reduced, and testing time, like I would say manually, we used to take hours to create and update those test cases. And here you are, you have the AI, and you're prompting to AI saying, okay, do this, do that. And it's also creating the test cases for you in seconds.
Hmm.
And yeah, so while QA can, one QA person is like trying to test for example, a web page on one device, AI is like done testing the same page on so many devices on so many platforms. And not only that, since this is like basically codeless, anyone can actually test it. You don't have to have that technical background. You don't have to know coding. You don't have to have that kind of thing. You just can go in and be the QA person, be that detail-oriented, creative, analytic, person, and do the QA work. Not worrying about all the, I have to go in and update this script because, okay, there's another update coming. So I would say that was one of the best decisions we took as a team. And after seeing a significant, positive changes, our team decided to invest time in training our QA resources to use this codeless AI automation tool. And knock on wood, accuracy improved significantly, and we haven't had any in-market deviation for almost an year. So that's our AI success story.
I like it. That example is definitely inspiring, and appreciate it. I think pharma and regulated industries for sure have probably an even greater burden than a lot of other industries.
Exactly.
Bill, any other real world example that you wanted to share with us come to mind?
Oh yes, and I love the story about switching to codeless automation, because that really is the cornerstone of what we do. We always ask, why didn't automation ever fulfill its promise? Well, in essence, every tool until our founder came up with the idea relied on building a secondary code base to test a primary code base. So we're building technical debt into our automation. Back in 2002, a gentleman named Charlie Lee wrote a book and said, at what point is you spending more time fixing your tests and running it? And that was 40% coverage back then. Think about everything that's happened since then. Now it's below 20%. So our founder came up with the idea in 2007, 2008, let's just take code out of the equation. Let's create a visual model-based way to do test automation. And that boosted the percentages up to 70 and 80. And now with self-healing and some of the other capabilities we talk about, that has gotten even higher. So it's all about keeping up with the pace of change. Just some examples that come to mind. Our friends at Bose in Boston, Massachusetts, used a type of machine learning built into our technology in order to just identify the tests they needed to run for each change coming in the SAP environment. It used to be they had to run a full regression. They'd pull accounting out, throw pizza at them for a day and say, okay, run a full regression, does everything work? With this technology, they were able to cut down the number of tests that they had to run by over 70%. And as a result, they were able to multiply the number of releases. They were able to get out the door by a factor of 8. Great success story. And then one that happened just today, I was talking to a healthcare company up in Michigan, and they were using our Vision AI capability, that facial recognition technology. They said that they have a technology they have never, ever been able to automate, and they've tried for years with various tools. And they finally got the latest version of our Vision AI. They said it's working perfectly, and it blew them away. They're able to do it either through a Citrix interface or co-hosted on the Citrix server, either way. So just a couple quick success stories about not necessarily generative, but other places machine learning is already making a difference in the industry.
Excellent. I do see there's questions coming in. I'm gonna hold the questions to the end just in case we start to run low on time, but I see them coming. Bill, just kind of building on that a little bit, talking about the future of AI and a little bit the journey that you all have been on. What are your insights into the kind of the future of AI and software testing and the implications for enterprise quality assurance?
Well, the number one question everyone wants to know, and I alluded to it at the beginning, are when will these agents be capable, not just of writing our manual test cases, but auto-generating automation as well. Right now, we're on a journey that we call autonomous testing, and we have several working prototypes already that we're going to be showing actually at SAP Sapphire just next week. So imagine that I had an automated test, and I'll start with a simple example because this was the first one that we experimented with. It's a mobile test, and all I do is tell the system, turn on the power saver. I don't have any tests already built. I don't have any script in the background. All the system has is a view of the telephone, of this phone screen. It analyzes the first screen and determines on its own what actions need to be taken. Then it auto-generates those Tosca artifacts on the fly at the time of execution to click to the next screen. Then it analyzes that screen, auto-generates the artifacts on the fly until it gets down to the actual power saver and it turns it on. Now, all I did was say, turn on the power saver. Didn't matter if it was iOS or Android, didn't matter if it was 3 levels or 15. So maintenance all of a sudden becomes a thing of the past. The tests are generated at the time of execution. Also, in terms of how we define tests, think about the level at which I define that. But how do you maintain quality over what it does? Well, it will auto-document as it executes, and it's still going to require a craft worker to go back and say, yes, this actually did hit the power saver, and it did not just order me pizza on Domino's, which again, with hallucination, you never know.
Right.
But we now have more complicated working examples of driving autonomous testing on SAP, on insurance applications. So stay tuned for a lot more developments in this area very soon. And that's a problem that so far the market is just starting to grapple with. A lot of people think you can do this with Selenium and ChatGPT, but you're still going to run into numerous maintenance issues along those lines. So autonomous testing, I believe, is the next step forward.
Excellent. Tinju, anything else on kind of the future of AI and testing that you're coming across?
No, I want to know when that will be in market. Sign me up.
Yes, ma'am.
Fair enough.
He kind of covered that, so I'm good.
Well, let's flip over, Tinju, talk a little bit about the kind of evolving testing roles. As AI continues to be integrated into the testing process, how do you see the roles of software testers evolving, and what skills should they focus on developing kind of in the area of AI automation for testing?
Yeah, I know the fear of AI replacing human testers. I know it's a common concern, but however, it's important to understand AI is not here to replace us, but to augment our capabilities. Like testers has the creativity, problem-solving abilities, and emotional intelligence that AI lacks, right? So we provide insights into user experience that AI cannot replicate. So I don't think AI is going to replace QA anytime soon. But Bill just scared me, so I don't know. Things might happen, things might change, but so in future, what I see is like QA becoming more collaborative rather than being a standalone organization. For instance, at Lucky and Company, both QA and BA work closely together. So as QA, we are like often the last line of defense. We can be the first to come up with innovative ideas on how to make things better, right? So having BA and QA working together help us to not merely to verify functionality, but to strategically align with the business. So with AI, we kind of anticipate more collaborative work like this in the future. So in web application development, there will be like interplay between designers and QA to create the best possible user experience, right? Sure. So like AI is gonna add all the good things to QA, making things easier for testers. So they can now focus on the innovation side and take that user experience to the next level. And skill-wise, I would say technical skill would be really good. Especially now, AI is making it easier for you, all the technical stuff, right? Technical things are turning into prompts now, like Bill mentioned, prompt engineering. So it's going to be easy for you, but technical skill would be good. But one of the best skill would be like having a continuous learning mentality, because AI is like rapidly evolving. So commitment to that continuous learning and staying updated with the latest trends and technology is essential. And another would be like a communication and collaborative skills, like which will be important for working effectively in a cross-functional teams. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be more collaboration with AI in the picture. Another skill would be like to consider ethical consideration, understanding, like as we are in the, like, remember, when internet came in, right? Initially, internet was the source of fascination. But now we realize that online purchases could potentially expose our information, personal information. I mean, that's what my husband says. So I don't know. I like shopping, but similarly, we must be like cognizant of ethical implication of AI. It's crucial to maintain transparency, accountability, and fairness in AI testing practices, right? And it encompasses data privacy, responsible deployment of tools, and ensuring adherence to ethical standards. So I think the rise of AI in software testing doesn't signal the end of human tester. Instead, it's gonna open up avenues for all of us to explore and innovate. Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah, I like that. So the evolution of roles in the testing field just kind of underscores the need for continuous learning, as you're saying, and adoption. Bill, you're seeing a lot of people out there and probably the evolution. Anything else that you wanted to add in there that you're seeing in roles as people are kind of adopting and transitioning?
Something fascinating, something that's going to take us all back to our roots when we were all first quality professionals. Does anyone remember classes that were available in the 90s called Writing Testable Requirements? Does that ring any bells for anyone in the audience? Right. Back when we were first learning not to manage our requirements, now epics and user stories, in one massive document, we were actually able to treat them as individuals. Well, this first wave of generative AI auto test case generation is going to consume those to suggest test cases for us. They're only going to be as good as the inputs we provide for them. Maybe that comes from prompt engineering. But a good place to start, go back and blow the dust off those old 90s books called Writing Testable Requirements. And that's how we're going to get the most out of this first generation of generative AIs. In fact, I used to teach that in the build up to Y2K. So I've already gone back and found all my old materials.
Nice. Kind of switching over, as you, Bill, have gotten out there and talked to a lot of organizations and helping them, I think one of the questions that comes up a lot is with stakeholders. What strategies would you recommend for securing stakeholder buy-in when proposing shifting, to AI-powered test automation within an organization?
So the stakeholders right now are actually running way ahead of us on this. As I said, I've heard CEOs mention that they're looking to either reduce workforce or increase productivity. And right now, we're not only the guardians of the quality, we're the guardians against that hype. I mean, if you look at some of these latest trends, 67% have already integrated some level of generative AI. I know that most of my colleagues in some of my partner organizations use it to write all their emails every day. 79% of people doing ERP cloud migrations are looking at how they can incorporate generative AI, 65% in the custom app space, and they're already looking at 6.6 trillion in productivity savings. So the stakeholders, what we need to do is make sure they understand the realistic approach. We talked about starting small, and I loved that explanation, but we also need to understand that people who are on the application development and deployment side are already using these tools.
Yeah.
And that without being able to incorporate fighting fire with fire, having an intelligent approach to incorporating AI at all levels, including generative, into your testing process, there's simply no way we're going to keep up with the onslaught that's being thrown at us. I mentioned earlier that I think quality is introducing a golden age right now because of the sheer volume of work that's going to be thrown at us. We were already perilously close to the edge. Now we've tripled the velocity. So, but it also depends on the stakeholders you're talking to. At the highest level, really, they want to understand three things. How is this going to help de-risk my change? How is this going to help increase my velocity? And how is this going to ultimately help, you guessed it, save me money? And we have case study after case study that will show that if it's done in a responsible way with the right people and processes. It's not all about technology. Technology will just make you more efficient at being ineffective if you don't have the right people and processes in place. But tying that all back to those high C-level initiatives is really how you're going to get the attention of the stakeholders.
Nice. Well, I like that. It's very kind of actionable 3 points on gaining the support of stakeholders. It's essential, for the successful deployment of any new technology or just getting continued resources with the spaces that are here. So, Tinju, anything that comes to mind for you that you want to add in on just engaging stakeholders or things that you've seen in particular?
I think Bill covered everything, but I agree with them on everything. Maybe quantify the benefits, like provide a clear and quantifiable projection of benefits, such as like cost saving, time saving, and improvement in test coverage. And, so numbers can often be more persuasive than, the abstract benefits. And not only that, maybe like involve stakeholder in the process, like when you're doing the training, maybe involve them. Like I mentioned earlier, just having a continuous support will also help. But because we have AI already implemented, there's a chance, since people don't know how to use it, right? There's a chance it might not work out, right? The numbers might not come out good end of the day. So you have to have that continuous training and support to sustain that success.
That's great. Well, we've got a little bit of time. Let's bounce over and see how we can do with the questions. So I'm going to start from the top. So hopefully some of these might have come in before we answered them down the bottom. So let's take a look. The first one, what techniques does AI employ to manage test data, and how does it ensure protection of sensitive information? So I'm not sure who wants to try and tackle that one.
I will take first stab at that because we're working on this right now on our roadmaps. All the internal sessions that I'm seeing, the test data problem, and it is a problem, is something that we are very keen to address this year with a new offering that hopefully we'll be able to talk about in more detail very soon. But it's not only making sure that you optimize the test data that you're using, you understand what a golden set is, you're looking for duplication of effort, you're looking to optimize the data combinations, but the security and privacy aspect is something that we take very, very seriously. And we call our center for doing that responsible AI. So for instance, ensuring that we're not taking customer data outside of their environment unless they have signed all of the proper contracts to do so. We do leverage Azure's LLM, for instance, but we don't use any customer data to train our Copilot assistants. We make sure that everything's in private tenants, and we have an entire security team dedicated to ensuring that that is maintained and compliance regulatory is maintained. If you saw what EMEA did just a couple months ago, they passed one of the most sweeping legislative acts around this topic that we've ever seen. Now, my company originated in Vienna, Austria. We have a very large European presence. So these are things that we take very, very seriously. But as far as the test data management, we'll say solution, I'll have more news about that later this year.
Tinju, anything that you wanted to add in there that you've already kind of dealt with?
No, just I want to hear that news and So when you're ready.
So do I.
Here's one asking, how does AI-powered testing automation improve testing efficiency and accuracy? I think you guys touched on that a little bit, but maybe just to remind kind of a key takeaway or two.
And our founder's first idea for efficiency, and he calls it his 3 efficiencies, is what if we could do less testing more intelligently? And that was really the first place we ever baked machine learning into our tool suite through our live compare change impact analysis product. So right now, geared primarily for the SAP space, we are looking at branching out those techniques to other platforms. But what it's able to do through machine learning is build a risk assessment of everything, say, an SAP system does day to day in production by observing it. On top of that, it's always observing the lower environment. So when a change comes in, it can benchmark that change against an operational environment, tell you exactly what changed, and then through a technique we call a depth analysis that works with machine learning, we're able to optimize the effort to test each and every one of those changes. So it will literally tell you on the screen, I just saved you 80% effort over running a full regression. Here are the tests you need to run. And oh, by the way, I just looked in your test repository, identified, hey, good news. 75% of what you needed to run, you've already built. I ran it and here are the results. But the other 25%, those are your gaps. Those testers, that's a more interesting thing. I don't have tests that really address these particular things that changed. So then I can either go and work with the people that are literally identified in the system. Hey, Molly's the top user of this transaction. Go talk to Molly to build your test case. Going back to what Tinju was saying about being that business partner. Or through some of these generative techniques, maybe, just maybe, some of that could be auto-generated on the fly as well. And that's how our friends at Bose were able to keep up. So that, I think that really addresses the efficiency and the accuracy.
Excellent. Another one, how can I determine if we are ready for AI-enabled test automation? Tinju, any thoughts on how people can kind of determine whether they're ready?
Yeah, so I would say first maybe do a risk assessment, as assess the risk associated with the AI-enabled automation, like which industry you are trying to implement AI, right? So you have to be really careful with very sensitive areas like pharma, healthcare. So that can be the first step. And then, of course, cost benefit analysis, consider the cost and benefits of implementing AI-enabled automation. While AI can improve efficiency and accuracy, there is that initial cost associated with training the AI model, right? So that would be a consideration for sure. And organizational culture, I would say, evaluate your organizational culture and readiness to adopt AI, because some of the organization, they don't like to change. So ensure that buy-in from key stakeholders. And another would be tools, infrastructures, and resources. Like you have to have the right tools and infrastructures and that expertise to implement AI. Yeah.
Very, very helpful. Bill, anything else you wanted to add in there on just trying to determine readiness?
The culture is the culture is so important. Cultural transformation is actually part of our overall framework, because how else will you fully realize the benefit of these new techniques unless your organization and your culture adjusts and adapts to adopt the benefits? Like we were just talking about, it's not about just plugging in a magic technology. Right. It's about changing the overall way we're doing business to get the most out of everything that we're doing.
Here's one that maybe you can t-shirt size or something. People want to understand what's the typical time frame and cost for standing up AI-enabled test automation. Bill, do you guys give some sort of rule of thumb or how to get started, or bigger than a bread box, smaller than a barn? How do you kind of talk about that? expectations?
It's about understanding where they are first and foremost. What automation paths have they been down in the past? What were their challenges in doing that? Are they doing test automation and isolation on each system? Or are they doing true end-to-end testing across all the systems required in order to accomplish a certain business goal? Which is actually staggering. Everyone's familiar with probably the Olive Garden chain of restaurants. If you get on their website and order spaghetti, you have just touched 27 systems. 27. The loyalty system, the back of office system, the front of office system, the accounting system, the curbside delivery system, you name it. So again, end-to-end testing. So time frame depends on what your ultimate objective is and laying out the plan to get there in incremental steps. Start small. Start with a pilot project. Prove the efficiencies work in a measurable way. And then once you have that template for your organization, then you can start rolling it out to other divisions and other groups or other Scrum groups within your organization. So it's easy way out to say it depends, but we can give you a roadmap that's adaptable in size to help you get there.
Okay. Here's one that I think you kind of spoke to a little bit, but maybe a build. What role does AI play in predictive analytics for software testing, and how can it help anticipate potential defects? So I know you kind of glossed over that. I'm not sure when the question came in. So let's assume they heard your teaser. Do you want to go a little bit deeper there?
Absolutely. In fact, I used to work for an organization that has a predictive analytics engine around this. And the concept is that there have been test management systems in some of these organizations that date back to the 90s. So they have a wealth of knowledge, whether it be the defect database, whether it be the code commit database, or both, and the test run database that can be used to train predictive analytics in order to hopefully project the future for systems that don't necessarily radically change. I have seen some success in this around the insurance industry where they had similar focus and savings as with the Life Compare product that I had mentioned earlier. I also seen some areas where it fell down, particularly in the banking industry in Canada. I was just talking to a gentleman the other day. He tried that twice and did not get the results that he had hoped for in terms of being able to predict where defects might occur. And when we really dug into it, went back to something Tinju said earlier. How good is the data in that database? How scrubbed was it? How ready was that organization to take their data and train a model in order to perform that predictive analysis? And that might have been the piece that was missing. So yes, I do see tools out there like that, but they have to go hand in hand with data integrity testing tools to ensure that the basis of the model, whether it's predictive analytics, whether it's a large language model or a multimodal model, which I think we're going to see more and more of, if it's trained in the proper way.
That's helpful. The people, process, technology. There's a couple people questions that are coming up recurringly. So let's see if you guys can share a little bit of experience. The theme, I think, is one of these questions is, how do you train and mentor an existing QA team to adopt AI-driven software testing? So you guys have both lived this a little bit, kind of what's your experience? I think you hinted at a bunch of the pieces, but let's kind of revisit.
Training and mentoring is actually one of my passions. I actually, back 15 years ago, started a program where I was taking people from all walks of life and training them in automated testing and test management techniques. And it was very successful. It was a boot camp style program, but the people entering it really had a desire to learn more. And we've been through these changes as a QA community our entire careers. I mean, if you think about generative AI and the fear factor associated with it, didn't we experience the same thing when Selenium came in about 15 years ago and everyone was using the tools from Mercury Interactive, and all of a sudden they were worried that I have to be a Java developer or I'm out of a job? Or Kubernetes came in, or the cloud came in. We're always having to learn and adapt. If you're in technology and you're not, to Tinju's point, always staying abreast of the latest and greatest, it will pass you by. But I think we're seeing few changes more exciting than what we're experiencing now. I think there's a natural curiosity and hunger to really dive in and get our arms around what these generative AI platforms can do. Because right now we're only limited by our imagination. As you can see, we're both very passionate about talking about this topic. It's not because we felt we had to be, it's because it's captured the imagination like nothing else has since, I believe, the invention of the internet itself. And I think we're going to see a bigger impact over the course of time as well. So I think the motivation factor is there. The how is the interesting part. And that's bringing in the right people and the right organizations, whether you're doing it internally or bringing in a third party that will really sit down and lay out a path and help people to see that they too can adapt. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you a generative AI co-pilot to help mentor you along the way, so you're going to be more productive in the first place. As you saw from those stats I read before, 43% of the people who weren't as skilled experienced a larger jump in their productivity than the 17% who were skilled. So I think that the problem partly will help solve itself, but there has to be that hunger. And also, I think within an organization, this is something else I'm really big on, establish a community of practice. Have employee-driven groups form within an organization that will organize, that'll lead symposiums, that'll lead seminars, that'll bring in guest speakers, and let it be grassroots driven. People will flock to that. And we found from an adoption policy, from a cultural transformation policy, at numerous organizations, that's one of the most effective ways to really light a fire.
I like that. Tinju, just for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Encourage team members to practice practice. Like, that's one thing from my experience I learned. Like let them be hands-on. Let them work on it so they are not scared anymore. Like when we first implemented AI, they were all scared because, oh, okay, AI, it's something like it's going to be hard. But once they started using it, now like I'm like, okay, everyone wants to work on it. So it's so easy. It's so user friendly. So just having them like on their like working on hands-on, like that's very important. And encourage, like what Bill said, encourage that collaboration and knowledge sharing, right? And provide feedback and support. That's very important. And continuous learning. That's really, really important, especially in AI, because every day you have something new.
For sure. Well, I think that's probably a great closing remark. We're just about the top of the hour. Thank you, Bill and Tinju, for the deep dive into AI-powered test automation, and to all for you and for your engaging questions and the participation. Today's discussion has not only highlighted the transformative impact of AI on test automation, but also armed us with some strategies to navigate its complexities. So we hope you leave this event inspired and equipped with some actionable insights to implement AI-powered test automation within your organization. So continue to innovate, collaborate, and push the boundaries of what's possible in the enterprise testing space. Thank you for joining us today. Stay curious and keep exploring the potential of AI in enhancing your testing strategies. Take care all. Thank you.